I've been tracking cruise pricing for 7 years, and what's happening in 2026 is unlike anything I've seen before. The average cruiser is now spending $400 to $600 more per trip than they did just 2 years ago, and most of them have no idea why. Today I'm walking you through 13 new fees and charges that cruise lines have quietly introduced, expanded, or hidden deeper in the fine print. Some of these changes happened in the last 12 months. All of them are taking money out of your pocket right now. If you want to stay ahead of what cruise lines don't want you to know, hit subscribe right now. I break down these insider secrets every single week. Let's start with the one that's hitting the most passengers hardest right now. Automatic daily gratuity increases. Most cruisers know that a daily gratuity charge gets added to your onboard account, usually somewhere between $16 and $20 per person per day. But what many passengers don't realize is that several major cruise lines quietly raised these amounts in 2024 and again in late 2025, some by as much as 20%. On a 7-night cruise for 2 people, that increase alone can add $80 to $120 to your final bill, compared to what you might have budgeted based on older information you found online. And here's the part that really stings. When you read reviews or watch videos from 2 or 3 years ago, the gratuity figures quoted are simply wrong now. You're planning your budget based on outdated numbers. Before you sail, go directly to your cruise line's current website and look up their exact daily service charge. Don't rely on anything you read more than 6 months ago. The number has almost certainly changed. Now let's talk about specialty dining, because this is where the hidden fee story gets more complicated. Specialty restaurants have been a fixture on cruise ships for years. You pay a cover charge, usually $30 to $60 per person, and you get a premium dining experience. That's not new. What is new is the surcharge on top of the surcharge. Several cruise lines have introduced a la carte pricing within specialty restaurants that used to have a flat cover charge. You pay the cover, sit down, and then discover that certain premium items, a specific cut of steak, a particular seafood dish, a dessert tasting menu, carry an additional charge on top of what you already paid. I watched passengers at specialty restaurants genuinely confused when their final receipt showed charges they didn't expect after paying what they assumed was an all-inclusive cover. Always ask the server before you order whether there are any additional charges beyond the cover price. A simple question saves a real surprise at the end of the meal. Here comes the change that surprised me most when I started tracking it. Port charges and destination fees that are now itemized and charged separately rather than being bundled into your cruise fare. This isn't entirely new, but the way it's being applied has changed significantly. Certain destinations, particularly popular Caribbean and Bahamian ports, have introduced or increased their own entry fees in 2025 and 2026, and cruise lines are passing those charges directly to passengers as separate line items. Some passengers see these fees for the first time when they review their onboard account mid-cruise. Others see them on the final bill on disembarkation day. Either way, they weren't in the original price you saw when you booked. The amounts vary by destination, but I've seen individual port fees ranging from $10 to $35 per person per visit. On a 7-night Caribbean itinerary with 4 port stops, that can add up to $60 to $140 per person that simply wasn't visible when you first signed the booking confirmation. Here's something that affects nearly every passenger who wants to stay connected during their cruise. Wi-Fi pricing has been restructured across most major cruise lines, and not in your favor. The old model was simple. You bought a package for the week at a set price. The new model introduces tiered pricing, where basic browsing is one price, streaming is significantly more, and video calling might be on a separate tier entirely. If you used to pay $150 for a week of decent Wi-Fi and you're budgeting that same amount for your 2026 cruise, you might find that the equivalent package now costs $220 to $260. And if you want to stream video calls with family back home, which many passengers over 60 use to check in with their children or grandchildren, that's now often a premium add-on that costs extra on top of the base package. Check the current Wi-Fi pricing for your specific cruise line before you sail. The numbers have changed more than most people expect, and the difference matters when you're traveling on a fixed retirement budget. Let me tell you about a fee change that particularly affects passengers who like to book their excursions independently and cancel if plans change. Shore excursion cancellation windows have tightened significantly on many cruise lines. What used to be a 48-hour cancellation window with a full refund has, in many cases, shrunk to 24 hours, or in some cases been eliminated entirely for certain tours. This matters because weather, mobility issues, or simply feeling under the weather can all affect whether you want to go on a particular excursion. If you're over 60 and your knees are bothering you the morning of a long walking tour, you used to be able to cancel the day before with no penalty. On some lines now, canceling within 48 hours of departure means losing 50% of the cost. Canceling the day of means losing the full amount. Always read the current cancellation terms when you book any ship-sponsored excursion. Don't assume the policy is the same as your last cruise. Here's one that catches a lot of passengers completely off guard: the resort or destination fee charged at private island destinations. Several cruise lines have developed their own private islands or beach clubs, and access to certain areas of these destinations now carries a separate charge. You might assume that stopping at a cruise line's own private island is fully included in your fare. For some areas, it is. But premium beach areas, reserved loungers, certain food and drink venues, and water activities often require an additional per-person fee that can range from $30 to over $150, depending on what you want to access. I've watched passengers arrive at a beautiful private island, see the premium beach club they'd been looking forward to, and then discover at the gate that entry costs $60 per person that they hadn't budgeted for. Research exactly what's included versus what costs extra at any private island destination on your itinerary before you step onto that tender boat. Now let's talk about something that directly affects your onboard experience from day one: the early embarkation or priority boarding fees that have quietly become more structured and more expensive. Most cruise lines offer the ability to board earlier than your assigned time, skip certain lines, and access the ship before the general rush. What used to be either free or a modest charge included in certain loyalty tiers is now, on several lines, an explicit paid upgrade ranging from $30 to $80 per person. If you're over 60 and you prefer a more relaxed boarding experience, or if you have mobility concerns that make waiting in long queues difficult, this fee may feel worth it. But it is a fee that didn't exist or wasn't standardized 2 or 3 years ago. Know it exists and budget for it if it matters to you. Here's a change that's particularly frustrating because it involves something passengers used to receive as a matter of course: room service fees. The traditional model on most cruise ships was that room service for main meals was included in your fare, with perhaps a small fee for late-night or specialty items. That model has been quietly retired across several major cruise lines. As of 2025 and into 2026, room service on many ships now carries a delivery fee ranging from $5 to $10 per order, regardless of what you're ordering or when you order it. It's a small amount in isolation, but for passengers who rely on room service regularly, perhaps because of mobility issues or simply because they enjoy a relaxed breakfast in their cabin, it adds up quickly. On a 7-night cruise with morning room service every day, you're looking at $35 to $70 in fees that wouldn't have existed on the same cruise line 2 years ago. Let's talk about the spa, because the pricing structure there has gotten more complex in ways most passengers don't see coming. Cruise ship spas have always been premium priced. What's changed is the introduction of thermal suite access fees, hydrotherapy pool day passes, and wellness area charges that used to either be included in treatment prices or available for a single, modest daily rate. Now, on many ships, these amenities are sold in separate packages, and if you book a treatment expecting to spend the afternoon in the thermal suite afterward, you might find you need to purchase a separate day pass to do so. Thermal suite and hydrotherapy pool day passes can range from $30 to $60 per person per day. If you and your travel companion were looking forward to relaxing spa afternoons on sea days, budget accordingly. The cost can easily add $200 to $300 to your cruise spending that simply didn't exist under the old pricing structure. Here's something that affects nearly everyone and often goes unnoticed until the final bill arrives. The beverage gratuity, charged on top of every individual drink purchase, even for passengers who aren't on a drink package. This has always existed at around 18 to 20%. But the percentage has crept upward on several lines, and it now applies to coffee, fresh juice, smoothies, and specialty non-alcoholic drinks in addition to alcohol. On a moderate spending cruise where you're buying a few coffees a day, some juices, and maybe a couple of cocktails, this gratuity adds up to a meaningful amount across a full week. And for passengers on drink packages, the gratuity on the package itself, which is charged up front at booking, has increased proportionally as the underlying drink prices have risen. If you last purchased a drink package 2 years ago and you remember what it cost, expect to pay noticeably more today for the equivalent package. Now let's talk about something that hits passengers on the last day, when their guard is completely down. Early disembarkation and luggage storage fees. Some cruise lines now charge a fee for self-disembarkation, the option to carry your own luggage off the ship at an earlier time, rather than waiting for the standard baggage call. This used to be free on virtually every line. It's now a paid option on some ships, ranging from $15 to $30 per person. Additionally, luggage storage at the pier for passengers who want to spend a few hours in the embarkation city before heading to the airport has gone from free to a paid service at many ports. These are exactly the kinds of charges you encounter when you're tired, ready to go home, and least likely to push back on anything. Build them into your budget in advance, rather than encountering them as a last-minute surprise. Here's one that affects passengers who want to customize their dining experience. The fee for changing your dining assignment or requesting a specific table configuration has appeared on several cruise lines as a formal charge, where it used to simply be handled graciously by the dining staff on embarkation day. Some lines now charge a fee for same-day or last-minute dining time changes, particularly during peak sailings. It's often a small amount, $10 to $15, but it represents a service that used to be complimentary and is now monetized. If you have specific dining preferences around timing or table size, arrange them well in advance through the cruise line's pre-booking system, rather than handling it on board where it may now carry a cost. Finally, here's the one that represents the biggest philosophical shift in how cruise lines are pricing their product in 2026. The basic cabin now truly is the most basic possible experience, and much of what used to be included in any cabin category is now a paid upgrade. I'm talking about things like access to certain pool or deck areas, priority tender access at tender ports, and even in some cases, basic amenity kits in the cabin. The cruise fare has become more like an airline base fare, a starting point from which you add everything else. The headline price looks affordable. The final cost of a cruise that resembles what you got 5 years ago for that same headline price is significantly higher. Budget not for the headline fare, but for the full experience you actually want to have, and you'll have no surprises. So there you have it. 13 fee changes costing cruise passengers real money in 2026. Daily gratuity hikes. Specialty dining surcharges on top of cover charges. New port and destination fees. Wi-Fi tier restructuring, tighter excursion cancellation windows, private island access charges, priority boarding fees, room service delivery fees, spa thermal suite passes, beverage gratuity increases, disembarkation and luggage fees, dining change fees, and shrinking cabin inclusions. None of these are impossible to navigate, but all of them require you to do your homework before you book. Go in knowing what things actually cost in 2026, and you will never be caught off guard. Like and subscribe for more insider cruise secrets every week.